And now, it's Boomer Life. Lifestyle discussion designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is Boomer Life on CIL 650.
Bring it on home to me.
And welcome to the show. Today we're talking about Opal by Element. This is real groundbreaking. Speaking of groundbreaking, we have Candy Ho here as the Director and Vice President of Marketing and Corporate Relations, because they just had their groundbreaking.
Yes.
But it is a groundbreaking project because it's a place where people are going to be able to age in place. And it's a very important discussion today. And also joining us is our first ever guest called Guest. So that's very nice of you. Douglas Guest, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And the reason you're here is because we're going to be tapping into your experience with family members, aging, living in their home, the stresses on the spouse, stresses on the family, what you try to do to keep the family together and have your family age in place, and the struggles you ran into, and why you think Element is a better route than trying to do it on your own.
So to clarify, he's actually one of our purchasers.
Yeah, well, we'll get into all of that. But I just want to talk about quickly, as you know, Candy, I walk by your location every day walking the dog, and you're at King Ed and Cambie, and you recently had a groundbreaking. The fences are going up. I saw some trucks there. You had a big level lot. So what happened recently?
Yeah, so on Tuesday we finally had the formal groundbreaking ceremony, and we were covered all over the news in Vancouver Sun and Global, all the mainstream news, and it was signifying the physical realization, the first step towards this vision and dream becoming reality. And it was a pretty momentous occasion, and Douglas and his mom joined us, and so this week all the hoarding has gone up, and we're going to actually start excavating and building. So we are now on a very clear track in terms of timing that we can open for occupancy in 2 years' time. And since that groundbreaking, it has been like we made like 6 or 7 sales in 5 days.
Wow.
So, and people are really catching on, and it continues to be that trend that has been so encouraging, with Douglas being one of the first ones, where we have 2 generations of the same family coming together in the same residence to support each other.
Now, you don't have your display center there at King Ed and Cambie. You have it at City Square.
Yes.
And everybody knows the Kieran restaurant there on the corner of 12th and Cambie. So you're just right near there, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're inside City Square Mall on upper level shops, right facing at Cambie and 12th in the corner unit. Yeah.
So people can come and see you, right?
Yes, that's right.
That's how I came across and met Candy at first, was coming to that Discovery
I'd also
Center.
like to add, with the groundbreaking and it being in the news now, that even Providence Healthcare has come to us, and you've previously asked me are we like serving just the luxury market? And I had said, well, Opal itself is in a neighborhood where people have certain expectations, and in Langley it will be different. But I keep saying that our vision is to revolutionize the experience and perception of retirement and aging, and for all families to support each other. So this has really caught on, and the public sector is also coming to us. I had a meeting with Providence Healthcare last week, and they were also very inspired, saying that they would like this to become the norm, whether in public or in private. And I'm really encouraged that we are now ahead of, or at least on par with, Europe, because the only other place in the world that has the same model where seniors are not only supported with the aging and place services, but they're living together with family, not just having family to visit or for special occasions or whatever. It's living together like at home, truly home.
All right, let's bring in Douglas Guest to talk a little bit about Candy talked about, having multi-generations living together, talking about aging in place. And we'll bring in your real-life experience about what you went through and what you're trying to accomplish with your family members and why this solves the problem. So let's talk a little bit about what you've been going through over the last several years.
Well, my family, my father is 88, and he just passed away in the past December. But before that, he'd been at home for about 10 years, had some strokes, had dementia, and his goal was to be able to live at home and be able to pass away at home. And our family did everything we could to support that. As we went along, as somebody is aging in place, we're getting different nurses and supports in place, but there's only so far you can go. And so with that, we had a plan originally thinking for family, which was important to both my parents, to build a laneway house on the backside of the property. I'd be able to move in with my wife and 2 kids, and we could all have the family there.
So you could be there to help.
Be there to help, and also be there just to let the kids, every time my kids, who are now 7 and 5, were around my father, he would always light up, and he would always suddenly perk up and have a lot more energy and a lot more interaction. And so letting the kids be able to experience time with their grandfather and also grandfather with the kids. And so wanted to be there to help support all that, and realizing that it becomes difficult to operate a regular life, take care of my wife and kids as well as my parents at the same time, and trying to build a laneway. Sounded like a great process, but it took 2 years, and it got caught up in permitting, and meanwhile my dad's health was going downhill, and in the end we didn't actually get the laneway built before my dad passed away. And with that, looking at my mom and of course my wife's parents and in-laws, we figured to be proactive, did some research, came across Opal, and what everything we're looking to do is available in one place, supporting community, allowing family to be there, and being able to support someone in a space that is truly their own and is not a traditional retirement home, because both my parents were very against retirement homes.
That's where old people go.
That's where old people go, and that's where, and so my mom being an interior designer as well, having the space look and feel right was very, very important to her, and in all the experience of looking for a place for my dad, as he was possibly needing to go into a home because we were hitting the edge of how far we could actually provide care. There was fears of whether he would fall, because even though he was older, he was still a large, solid gentleman at 180 pounds, 6 feet. And so if he was going to fall, if he broke a hip, that was it. We had nothing at home. And every time we looked into support elsewhere out in the community in different facilities, there was always a wait list. And the difficulty is...
So I guess the worry is that you get to a certain point and that's fine, but that next step, as they deteriorate, you're like, oh, now we've got to wait.
Yes.
And so that was your worry.
And that created a lot of anxiety in our family and our household for the last little while of what happens if something goes wrong.
Right.
And we suddenly realized the connection in the family was suddenly being much more dominated by the anxiety of what happens if there's
it affects the
something
dynamics,
happens.
right?
Yeah.
You're trying to take care.
Did you go and look at some places and see what you were up against? I mean, your dad is living in his own home. It's a larger house. So what were you up against?
Well, we had looked at a number of other places, and my parents live just off Granville and King Edward, been in the same house since 1960. That was their home, and that's a large 3,500 square foot house. A lot of the other places we looked at, the difficulty was you could have assisted living, which had a nice space, but if you were suddenly in needing extra care for dementia or for old age and complex care, you couldn't fit there. And if we went and looked at the places that were more the complex care, a lot of them were 500, 600 square foot units and felt a lot more like a hospital, and unfortunately had that vibe that was, that's where old folks go to eventually pass away.
So I guess the real goal here, I mean, your dad's wish was to age in place, stay in his family home, be with your mom, and to have care, and you brought in as much as you could, but at a certain point that you're up, as you said, you're up against it. So I guess what Candy's goal here is with Opal is that now becomes your home. You can age in place, and when you get to those different stages of health, Opal is there, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and we're also freeing that, the anxiety is taken away. And when you say you had care at home, and that is, of course, a very fortunate circumstance that you can even afford that. But even then, because my maternal grandparents, my grandfather could also very fortunately manage to afford that, and most people cannot in the first place. But even then, it is not an ideal situation, because you're managing, it's like a whole separate, you're managing staff, and that in itself is stress. And then still, you don't have the level of equipment, say, one day. That's why you might be worrying, what if this happened, what if that happened, and the stairs, and... But
you're the sandwich generation, you've got you've got young kids, right?
Yes,
what, 7 and 5, you said?
7 and 5.
Yeah, those are young kids still. You're dealing with not even in grade school yet, right? For the 5-year-old, and then you've got elderly parents, and you are being pulled both ways.
Yes. And where things became really difficult for us as a family was, as my father aged, my mom had been in the caregiver role and helping take care of it and take care of him, but nobody knows how long any of this was to be. Originally, the doctors, after my dad had a stroke in 2003, said, if there's a time to tell you you've got 2 weeks, consider yourself in 2 weeks.
Wow.
He went home. We were all thinking this is the end. And then all of a sudden one day he just gets up, walks to the breakfast table, reads the paper, starts eating breakfast. We're all standing there with our jaw dropped.
Oh my God.
Well, that's a blessing, right?
And we're like, okay, we're going to keep going. And so from that point on, there was the care being there. My mom was helping taking care of it. But then as she's now 72, there was a point that for her to manage my dad, the household, and then have her own health come along, it became difficult. And that was where I was trying to step in.
And that would probably have made her age a little bit too, at least in the head for a while. But I've met your mom.
Physically a lot of work, right?
Yes.
All right, I'll tell you what, that's a great segue, because we're going to talk about now the next stage of what you're trying to accomplish for your mom and in-laws, and how you met and what the story was. So we'll pick up our conversation. We're talking about Opal by Element, which is at the corner of King Ed and Cambie. A wonderful place, and what we're going to do is find out more about it next on CL 650.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.